Welcome back for another deep dive, everybody. I bet you're ready for another deep dive into storytelling.
Yeah.
This time we're going to dig into something I know you can't get enough of. Crafting stories. Those that really grab people. And not just any part of storytelling. We're talking about the foundation, the bedrock, that often overlooked but oh so crucial phase of developing a killer premise.
Yeah, it's the difference between a flimsy structure that's going to collapse and a story that can really hold those captivating characters and events, right?
Exactly. We got our hands on some excerpts from this guide. And let me tell you, it reads like a treasure map for writers.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And today we're focusing on three major landmarks on that map. First, identifying those make-or-break challenges. You know, those challenges that are inherent within a story idea.
Right, from the get-go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to address them right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
laying that bedrock foundation for, like, a skyscraper. You don't want your story crumbling under the weight of its own potential, right?
Yeah.
I
It's about spotting those pitfalls early on so they can become part of the story's fabric, right?
Exactly.
Our guide actually uses Star Wars
Perfect example.
as a great example. I mean, you've got this massive galaxy, futuristic tech, epic battles. How do you ground all that grandeur, in a way that feels relatable?
That's the thing about Star Wars. George Lucas, he had to strike that balance. He had to make something that felt extraordinary but believable. But then he also had to create characters that felt grounded, human, even though they were in these crazy situations.
It's making the fantastical feel accessible. And Forrest Gump kind of does something similar, but on a completely different scale. This time, the challenge is, okay, how do we craft a mentally deficient protagonist who can anchor a narrative spanning decades in historical events?
Carry us through that, yeah.
Talk about a heavy lift.
It's huge, but that's the point that they make in the guide. These challenges, they often hold the key to unlocking the story's true potential. Like take Jaws, for instance.
Whoa, okay.
Spielberg took this creature with limited intelligence, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Sharks aren't the smartest. But he had to turn that into a source of relentless dread.
Right.
And he understood that the challenge wasn't about the shark winning a physical fight. It's about making the audience feel a constant, inescapable threat.
You just blew my mind. So what you're saying is, instead of looking at these challenges as limitations, we should view them as opportunities.
Yes.
To dig deeper.
100%.
To uncover those truly unique aspects of our story.
Absolutely. They challenge us, and as daunting as they may seem, they force us to really push our creativity, to think outside the box.
So it's about dissecting those story ideas to find what makes them tick.
Exactly. That's where this founding principle comes in. This is what they talk about in the guide. The bedrock. Everything rests on this.
I'll be honest. That term always sounded kind of intimidating to me, like some ancient writing decree, etched in stone.
I can see that. But what if you think about it less as this rigid rule and more like a seed? It's the seed that your entire story will grow from. It's like less about the what and more about the how and the why of your story. It makes all the elements click into place.
Right, and elevates a story from just existing to being unforgettable.
Exacto.
So a strong founding principle is about uncovering the beating heart of your story.
Yeah, it's the special sauce.
That special ingredient. And that's where originality comes in.
Yes,
Right.
100%. You need that. And they give a great example in the guide, The Godfather.
Okay.
Now, it's not just a crime drama about a mafia family. The brilliance is this founding principle. They use the structure of classic fairy tales to tell the story of a mobster's rise to power.
Wow.
Right? So you get this layer of unexpected depth of familiarity to this world that might feel very foreign to us.
Right. So it's familiar but completely unexpected.
Yes.
That's the power of a well-crafted founding principle.
There you go.
Okay.
Got it.
It's what makes it so compelling,
Yeah.
Familiar yet completely unexpected.
It's that hook.
Yeah.
That's the power of that founding principle.
And speaking of powerful stories with fascinating foundations, our guide dives into examples from ancient myths to modern classics.
Yeah, and it shows how this founding principle, it's like a narrative compass. It's guiding every creative decision.
It's like a blueprint for thematic coherence. And speaking of blueprints, we're kicking things off with the book of Exodus. Now, I know what you're thinking. A story about Moses. What's that got to do with screenwriting? But trust me on this one.
It's more than just parting the Red Sea. It's about, a man grappling with his own identity. He's fighting for his people's freedom. And he's receiving those, really heavy moral laws.
Yeah, those 10 Commandments.
Right, exactly.
So it's self-discovery intertwined with a fight for liberation. for an individual and an entire nation. Talk about high stakes.
Huge stakes.
Huge. But let's shift gears a little bit. Fast forward a few, or, well, a lot of centuries, to James Joyce's Ulysses. I'll be honest, I haven't quite tackled that literary Everest myself.
Oh, it's a beast.
Yeah.
But the founding principle actually makes it way more approachable. They break it down in the guide. Imagine an epic journey, but instead of these far-off lands, it's one day in Dublin. One day. And in that day, you have these two guys, one older, one younger. They're both on these parallel odysseys.
Interesting.
Each one searching for a father, a son, just this sense of belonging.
Wow, so it's taking this grand, almost mythical idea
Of an odyssey
and
group.
grounding it in these ordinary people.
Yeah.
That's clever.
That's the thing.
Making something so complex feel relatable.
Exactly.
And human.
And you know where we see that again?
Where?
4 weddings and a funeral.
Oh, a classic. Rom-com gold.
Total rom-com. But it's more than that, right?
I'm sensing a bud coming.
It's built on these contrasting emotions and settings.
Yeah.
You have pure joy. You have celebration, right? Weddings.
Right.
But then, bam, the stark reality of a funeral.
Wow.
And in this emotional roller coaster, you have this friend group navigating love, loss, and just yearning for that lifelong connection.
So it's using those contrasting emotions to highlight connection.
Right, exactly.
Very clever. All right, for our final example, we're stepping into a world of magic and wonder with Harry Potter. Now, it seems simple on the surface, but we know better by now, don't we?
Oh, we do. We know there's magic woven into the foundation.
Tell me more.
All right, so Hogwarts. This wizarding school, it's not just about learning spells, right?
Right.
It's mirroring a prince's journey.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
So you're telling me Harry Potter is basically a prince's journey in disguise.
That's exactly it.
My mind is blown.
J.K. Rowling, she tapped into that timeless archetype, but with such wit and imagination.
That it feels fresh.
Completely new.
That's incredible.
And that's the thing about mastering these tools. You can draw inspiration from these timeless themes, classic structures, and still create something totally original.
So original.
And that's where the protagonist comes in.
Okay, so choosing the right champion to carry your story.
You got it.
And the guide stresses that it's not about picking someone heroic or even likable. It's about a character whose complexities and flaws draw us in.
Yeah.
You gotta love your protagonist.
Love them, flaws and all.
Warts and all.
All of it.
All of it.
That's a powerful statement.
The guide even suggests that if you don't love your character, that's a sign. Like, your premise, it might need some work.
Wow.
It's true.
That's pretty radical advice.
It is.
But it makes sense. If your heart's not in it, it'll show.
100%. It will show. It will. Because that love, that fascination with your protagonist, it comes through. It translates to the page, to the screen.
It's contagious.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're saying if the writer isn't invested, the audience won't be either.
Think of it this way. The protagonist isn't just along for the ride. They are the ride.
Oh, I like that.
Their choices, their flaws, their triumphs. It's the engine of the story.
Right, right.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, to the founding principle, that's where it all comes together.
Okay, connect the dots for us.
So your protagonist, they need to embody the story's core process.
That deeper meaning we keep talking about.
Exactly. They're like the living, breathing representation of the founding principle in action.
It's like that old saying, something like, the right protagonist makes even the most outlandish plot feel relatable.
You got it. When you nail that, when your protagonist embodies the founding principle, the story just sings.
It clicks.
It clicks.
It all comes together.
Like, think about Michael Corleone in The Godfather. He's not just another mobster, right?
Right.
He represents that fall from grace.
Yeah.
The corruption of innocence, that's at the heart of the story.
He is that founding principle in action.
Exactly.
And he's not your typical hero.
Not at all. But that's what makes his journey so captivating.
It's the complexity, the
Yeah.
struggle, the internal stuff. That's what we connect with.
It reminds us that even in dark stories, there's that human element.
Exactly.
You all relate to it. It makes you realize how important that match is.
Yeah.
Between the story's idea and the character.
It's essential.
It makes all the difference.
It really does. And that's what makes this whole process, so exciting.
It's electrifying.
It's about discovery, uncovering those hidden depths in the story, in the characters.
We've certainly uncovered a treasure trove today. But before we send our listeners off on their own writing adventures, let's recap those key tools, like we've assembled a writer's toolkit.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So we started by shining a light on those inherent challenges.
Those are in every story idea, by the way.
All right, they're not roadblocks, they're opportunities
Yes.
to find the story's true potential.
Unearth it.
And then we ventured into the realm of the founding principle.
The guiding star.
That internal logic, right?
Yeah.
It takes a story from good to unforgettable.
It's not just what you're saying, it's how and why you're saying it.
And of course, we can't forget the protagonist.
Huh.
Gotta have someone to root for.
Someone flawed, complex, human.
Someone we can love, warts and all.
All of it.
The guide reminds us to really find that character who embodies the essence of our story. And, just run with it.
That's it.
It's like a dance.
It is.
A captivating premise, a resonant theme, a protagonist who takes us on that journey.
When all those elements come together,
It's magic.
pure magic.
And on that note, we've reached the end of another deep dive. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And to our listeners, keep those creative sparks flying. We'll see you next time.